welcome back. You are looking at Launch Fishers, the state's largest co-working space that opened in 2012 after starting in the basement of the Fishers Library. Today it covers more than 50,000 square feet of space, more than 600 members, and is home to some 300 businesses. It is a launch pad for entrepreneurs working on startup and high-growth, high-potential enterprises. Well, he's founded, co-founded, or served in C-level roles in at least 6 startups. He's also the mastermind behind Launch Fishers and this newest venture, the Indiana Internet of Things Lab, a tech lab and workspace for creators building on IoT technologies. And I'm pleased to be joined now by Launch Fishers and Indiana IoT Lab founder, John Wechsler. As always, John, welcome.
Thank you, Gary.
Take us back quickly. I talked to the mayor about this too, but coming up with this idea for first Launch Fishers and now this, part of a bigger idea for branding Fishers in this community.
Yeah, it was something that when we started thinking about this back around 2012 timeframe, we looked at communities around us and what they were known for. And some were arts, some were youth athletics, and Fishers really didn't have anything that stood out. And we kind of thought to ourselves, well, what if we chose entrepreneurship and innovation as our identity? How would that affect our fortunes going forward? We feel like we're on the right path here.
Building these doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. What do you think has been key to first Launch Fishers, which started, I remember, in the basement of the library and has grown into a huge space, and now this IoT lab?
Well, I would say a couple things. One is really first and foremost the visionary leadership of our mayor, Scott Fadness. Without someone at the helm that's willing to say, charge, we're going this way, and then sticking to that over the last 6 years, I'd put that at the forefront. Secondly, allowing the entrepreneurs to do their thing is a critical part of this. There's a book called Startup Communities where Brad Feld writes about the 4 tenets of the Boulder thesis, and the very first tenet is it must be entrepreneur-led. So allowing us to make our mistakes and try new things. I think our mayor's vision combined with allowing the entrepreneurs to kind of lead this thing and run forward, those two have really combined to make it pretty powerful.
Well, both the IoT Lab and Launch Fishers are part of a broader network, right? There's a real focus. I know you've been around the state, but making this part of a statewide network.
Absolutely. So starting with the Indiana Co-working Passport, we created an affiliation of 50 locations now across the state, where if you're a member at one, you can work at another. Reducing the barriers for Indiana entrepreneurs is a really big reason we did that. Now you look at the Indiana IoT Lab, and we're talking to communities around the state right now about their interests and desires to open an IoT lab. Whether we own and operate them isn't the key. The key is that the rising tide lifts all ships, and that's really at the core of what it is we're doing here.
And that's part of that momentum, if you will, around technology and innovation that we're seeing around the state of Indiana, I think.
Yeah, it's really encouraging to us to continue to see outlying communities, large and small. You know, I marvel still to this day at Huntingburg and what they've done down there with a community of 6,000 people, and they've built one of the mightiest and most functional co-working spaces I've seen.
Startup, scale-up companies, certainly a big focus here, but interesting, and especially here in the IoT Lab, the corporate innovation that is big-time companies attracted to this facility.
Yeah, I think we've kind of proved our chops in that entrepreneur and a backpack and an idea space where we take a single person and turn it into a 2, 3, or 4 person company. But what we're seeing is the corporate innovators now that are coming in, Fortune 500 companies that are bringing both industrial IoT projects with us as well as product challenges. How do we make this thing do its thing better? So we're really excited about where corporate innovation fits in here.
As you look out 5, 10, maybe even beyond 15 plus years, what do you see Fishers becoming with Launch, with the IoT Lab, with the corporate interests, the scale-ups? What can this community, in your view, become?
I think, most encouraging, and I think the mayor said it best when, you look at how this has really impacted the DNA of our community. I think when you look at reaching through our education system and attracting more farm-to-table restaurants and having the whole community integrate around this idea of innovation as a core value, I think we're going to see something very special in the decades ahead.
All right, John Wechsler, Indiana IoT Lab and Launch Fishers, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.